We always record it in case people can't make it. They can go back and watch it and still get the content.
Recording has begun.
Okay, thanks, Janine. All right, everybody, welcome. So I'm Caroline Roberts. Mike and Eric could not make it today. They had work commitments, so I'm standing in. And I'm just want to let you know you're in for a treat today. Even if you're not sure what personal branding is, you're getting ready to learn all about it, or maybe you think you know what it is and maybe you don't care. I guarantee you, you're going to learn something and you're going to care. And our speaker today has a ton of energy to engage you. So our speaker is Miss Victoria Meckley. She is the lead business developer for RS&H's aerospace capabilities in architecture, engineering, and construction. She has a degree in business management, marketing, and sales, and she definitely brings the passion, right? So the passion for helping people develop their interpersonal skills and whatever else she can help you with. She tends to be all in. She's coached everyone from young professionals to senior level managers and transitioning military service members to improve their communication skills, their personal brand, and other soft skills that lead to successful careers. And a big part of that also is an online presence. So if you're not already connected to Victoria, I suggest you get on LinkedIn, maybe even Facebook or any of those social media platforms. Look her up, add her. She puts out some good content, but also if you have any questions, personal or professional, she's always happy to engage. So with that, Victoria, AKA V-Dog, we're going to hand it over to you to get started. Thank you.
Thank you. That was quite the introduction. Yes, I appreciate all those nice things you said about me. I am really passionate about personal branding. It has helped me in my career, and I have seen it help others in their career. To Caroline's point, you guys may have already heard about personal branding, and you may have an idea of what it is. Some of you might actually have already worked on your personal brand, which is amazing if you've already gone down that road. As she said, I'm Victoria Meckley. I am super passionate about personal branding. I am a lifelong learner and enthusiasm for business storytelling. These are the things that make up my brand and make up who I am. It guides decisions I make and things I do. So this is kind of my brand in a nutshell. When we talk about personal branding, I want to make sure, especially in the LDP, that you guys are getting everything you need. So before we start off, is there anything anybody had in mind that they wanted to learn today, or questions that you're seeking to have answered? Was there anything that when you saw this come up on your schedule for LDP that you thought, I really want to know more about this?
So
Has
Victoria,
anybody
I have one.
Go ahead.
If I can jump in there, and then maybe that'll get other people thinking too. I am curious, and I've been thinking a lot about how does your personal brand change over time? And it could be due to life circumstances or events and or professional, changes, whatever's going on in your life. Kind of associating yourself with a brand and a mission and a storyline, if you want to call it that. And then when things get redirected, how does that affect your personal brand?
That's a great question. I will make sure to highlight that when I start talking about the development and the progression, because we are talking about your personal brand and your leadership identity. So you guys are working through the leadership development program, and part of defining your personal brand is going to help you identify what your leadership identity is. It's about merging those two, and then it's about being open to the evolution of that and how they are going to, how one may change the other if you already have a strong personal brand, and when you move into leadership, it is going to evolve and change. So that's, I will make sure I really hit hard on that one. Thank you for that comment and question, Caroline. Anybody else?
I have a question.
All right.
This is Catherine.
Oh yeah.
Hi.
Go for it.
I'm hoping to get something out of this on the topic of how to differentiate yourself from your company, because I do find that if I were trying to do anything, even just to update my LinkedIn account, my company will be like, hey, what you doing there? Are you updating your account? Where they assume, you know, some of that is tied to external appearances for others or interviewing. And obviously that wouldn't be what it's for. But even just in the LDP process, you know, writing my personal bio is different and honestly harder than writing my company bio, just based on experience over time. So I'm interested in some insight on that.
So I'm hearing, and this process is gonna help you when you write your personal bio, but what I'm hearing is to make those updates and own your personal brand outside of your company to where it doesn't give them the impression that you're out seeking opportunities. Is that an accurate summary?
Sure, though, even just what is my personal brand? How do I define updating my brand in a LinkedIn context outside of just the company that I work for? You know,
Got it.
their impressions aside, I can't control that. But really, the differentiation between me and my personal brand and who I am within the context of the company or what the company's brand is.
Got it. Okay. Yes, we will definitely be hitting on that. And I'm super excited that you joined today. So you're going to get to hear about it. And please feel free to interrupt and ask questions and say, hold on, tell me more about that, especially if I start moving on. This applies for all of you. This is not just me projecting and speaking at you. This is very much conversational. So if something sparks a question, thought, anything, feel free to be like, hold on. I would love to know more about that. I'm going to also try to keep an eye on the chat. So if I miss something, and Caroline, if you see somebody ask something, please definitely say, hold on, Victoria, somebody asked something via chat.
Okay, of course.
So yeah, so any other final questions, what you want to learn today? 3, 2, 1, moving on. So why is a personal brand important? And my coaching through, especially young professionals, and I got this advice long ago when I was a young professional, well, I'm still a young professional, earlier on in my career, was I am the owner of Victoria Incorporated. I am the CEO, and my mentors and people I seek out advice from, they are my board of directors. They help guide me through my career. But much like companies, much like nonprofits, the board changes. So over time, I outgrow my mentors or we grow apart. I find new mentors, I find new coaches, advisors, and they come onto my board of directors. The reason why having a personal brand is useful is you are going to have the context so you know who to put on as that board, what mentors you're seeking out. There is a lot of self-discovery when it comes around personal branding, which is why this session comes very early on in the LDP program. When you have a personal brand, you are using it in multiple different ways. So we have the job seeker where you're out looking for opportunities and you have that personal brand that you're marketing to companies. You have your personal brand as being an industry expert, a thought leader. You're differentiating yourself from the rest of your peers within the industry to stand out, and that is a personal brand application. And then your leadership style. So this is something we're going to focus a little bit more on, is the leadership style as well. That is part of your personal brand, and your personal brand is going to help you define what your leadership style is. It is really, ultimately, it's the ability to set yourself apart in multiple different ways. So that's kind of how you have to think about a personal brand. If you think about it at a grocery store, you're walking down the cracker aisle and there are a million different boxes and packages of types of cookies and crackers, and they all have very distinct logos, colors, things that set them apart, that draw you or I to that particular product. You kind of have to think about your overall packaging and what you're putting out there and presenting to the world. Why does it matter? So Cornell University research shows that to maximize employee satisfaction, new employees should focus on personal, not corporate identity. So when you as an employer have an identity and have that shaped leadership style, they know what they're getting into. They are more invested. They are more excited about working for a person than they are necessarily a logo. So it really is important to consider the impacts and how far reaching a personal brand and a leadership identity actually goes. They also say, I mean, we all know people hire people like logos don't hire people. So if you have a strong personal brand that people identify with, that they want to be around and resonate with, that is going to help in recruiting efforts. And as you all know, as you go into leadership, you are going to be instrumental in bringing and recruiting the top talent to be successful, for your team to be successful, for your company to be successful. So it really plays a lot more into what people necessarily think or consider. Your company, if your company has a really strong brand, it's easy for you to be overlooked or washed over by that strong brand, much like the question earlier. So it's really important for you to develop your own strong brand so you are separated out from your company, but still you are aligned with them as a brand ambassador. So you are aligned with the company, but it keeps the company from overwashing you. Just a further emphasis on the alignment between a personal brand and leadership identity. There's a lot of similarities, but you can't get to a leadership identity until you have the foundation of a strong personal brand. And we're going to go over how to do that. What is your personal brand? Your personal brand really ties in your goals, your passion, your values, your image. It sounds superficial, it sounds self-serving, but it is a way to summarize who you are professionally. It contains all of these things and it packages it in an outward image you present. Your reputation is generated from this. You are not your reputation. That is very crucial differentiation. You need to own your personal brand to make sure you're owning your reputation. I encourage you to develop a brand so that you can be the best version of yourself. That's ultimately why I have put such an emphasis on my own personal brand, because I'm constantly striving to be better. And this helps me know where my weaknesses are, my strengths are, and how to continue navigating my career path by utilizing my strengths and minimizing my weaknesses. So crafting and taking your control of your brand is done through self-reflection. So last year, I actually started working with a career counselor and coach just because I really wanted to try to figure out what's the next 5-10 years of my life and my career look like, what options are out there, what do I need to start considering. And what I found really interesting was during that time, she gave me a worksheet that was really similar to this worksheet that I use for personal branding development. It made my coaching really easy because I had already done all of these things. But there is a lot of similarities when you talk to a career counselor or a career coach and what they're going to ask you to develop in those aspects, those words, those key sentences, those things that you're developing for who you are, what makes you who you are, is actually very similar to this worksheet. So this is based on a lot of research. This is based on experience. This is based on just talking to multiple different professionals within the field on how to really drill down into what your personal brand is. I'm briefly going to go over to these different sections. You have values, passions, goals. I limited it to 10. You can put down any kind of value you want, but you really need to hone down into what those key words are. That's what this section is for. It's your key words. You don't want sentences. So when you find those keywords, it makes it easier for you to develop that value statement. It makes it easier for you to develop that bio later by using these keywords that you identify with strongly. What do you love doing? What are your passions? This is kind of a free-for-all. Write it all down. What are you really passionate about? And when you're doing some strong self-reflecting, you'll be surprised at what comes out of this exercise. career life dreams, short-term, long-term. Again, be very honest with yourself. If it's becoming a millionaire, write it down. Whatever those goals are, be open to just putting them down as is. Nobody's judging you. Nobody's looking at this other than you. This is an exercise for yourself. Skills and abilities.
Victoria,
yeah, go for it.
Adam asked a question. He asked if we can get a copy of this worksheet, and preferably, is it fillable? Is it a PDF that we can?
I do have a fillable worksheet I send out post, so it'll be larger. So you'll have like larger spaces, and you might want to use a notebook to write some of these things down if it's too confined.
Okay, and we'll when we get these materials, when Victoria's done, we'll push them out, either Janine through an email or definitely on the Google Classroom. We'll post them so you guys can download them.
Yes. Thank you for that question though. Good, because I meant to say that earlier, so I'm glad you stopped me and got that. Skills and abilities. This is soft skills. This is hard skills. You know what your skills are. More importantly, what are skills that you have that you don't enjoy using? Like, I'm really good at proposals and I hate doing proposals. So that is really important for me to identify to make sure that I stay out of a comfort zone. When you have a skill that you're really good at, you're more likely to gravitate towards things and events that allow you to use that skill that you're good at, even though you don't enjoy it. So this, outlining this specifically, helps prevent you from going down a road that you're going to later regret. I know it sounds strange, but it's true. We all enjoy doing things we're really good at. We all want to do things we're really good at. And if it's something that you really don't enjoy doing and you just happen to be good at, that is a dangerous road. So this really helps you kind of hash that out. Skills you would like to develop. Again, this section helps you identify other things in the future. What are your expertise and your experiences? For this section, my experiences as a military brat really allowed me to be more of a chameleon. I adapt to change really well. So putting those things down by saying your experience, you have life experiences that are different than everybody else. That's what makes up who you are. That is part of your personal brand. And you can use those to help define yourself in your bio and your LinkedIn. You can help it to define what type of leadership styles you're going to do well with. So don't discount how much input you can put into this if you take the time. Unique characteristics. This is just things that you feel are unique to you. And what do you want to be known for? This is really a big one. Do you want to be known as a thought leader for like transitioning veterans? Do you want to be a thought leader for environmental preservation, for coastal restoration? Do you want to be what do you want to be known for? Because this is going to drive your LinkedIn content. When you look at that and you follow that, it's going to help you develop that content later on for LinkedIn. Your style, your work style, your leadership style, this is going to take a little bit more time. We all know how we like to work. Do you want to work with a large team, a small team? What is it that you are most drawn to, and what do you do well in? And finally, image and impressions. You want to define what image you want to project out to people. Is it approachable? Is it strong and confident? Because sometimes if you're strong and confident, you're not always approachable. So there are different images that you want to make sure that you're defining on how you want to be seen on the outside. And impressions obviously falls in that as well. Finally, all of this information is going to help you with your value statement, your value proposition of I can and I have. So this is your differentiator and your unique factors. That is a very short statement. It is a statement to help guide you. And yes, this will evolve, because when you go through the sheet now, 5 years from now, your goals are going to be different. Your experiences are going to be different. Your unique characteristics may change. Your values may change. So this is something to revisit as you hit those large milestones. I revisited this when I made the decision to leave my old firm and come to my new firm, because it was a big jump for me. It was a big change for me. So I used this document to help me am I making the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? Am I looking at all the possibilities? Is this company going to align with my cultures and what I value? I really used it and reworked my worksheet to make sure that I was still staying true to myself, staying true to my brand, and I was still going to be able to live my brand, because you don't want to be something you're not. I don't want you to be something you're not. So when we talk about your leadership identity, this is going a little bit further, this is going a little bit deeper. So this section is unique to you guys. It's not, I don't do this for any of the other personal branding sessions I do. This is just for LDP. So when you're looking at your leadership identity, you want to ask yourself these 4 questions. And you want to make sure that you really define them well. Because when you do these, it's going to help you develop that value proposition as a leader. I'm trying to slow down. I tend to talk way too fast. Fortunately, it's recorded, so y'all can go back and look. All right, step 1 of developing your value proposition. I have 2 examples below, but it's what is unique about the way you think, what gives you distinction as a leader, what impact do others expect from your presence? I love that question. It is a loaded question, because when you become a leader and you have people that are looking up to you and looking for you to take charge, what are their expectations? And you shouldn't assume. You should ask them if you have the chance, but obviously sometimes you do have to assume, what are their expectations? Are they expecting me to go in and speak for the team, or are they expecting me to go in and provide them the space to speak for themselves? Those are 2 different expectations. So you really have to define what the expectation of your presence is as a leader, and then who, what, serve, solve problems for. Who are you solving problems for? And these are, it's really easy to write a whole paragraph. You have to really write it all out, drill it down, drill it down, drill it down, drill it down, to get to be those key words, those key things that you can follow and keep around and write into your bios, write into other things that you're doing and presenting, so that people know who you are as a leader. The benefit of people knowing who you are as a leader, especially within your organization, and if you're working, because middle management is a tough spot. So they need to know what they can bring to you and what they can't bring to you. So when you have this kind of developed and conveyed and verbally conveyed and supported through your actions, people will know what they can and can't approach you about, what is and isn't important to your organization, to what you're trying to achieve as a leader, and what you'll be able to achieve, because everybody has different capabilities and different strengths. So when you feed this into your strengths as well, it really paints a clear picture, and it enables clearer communication between the people you work with and yourself. Step 2, brand and tagline. So brands usually have a couple of, much like Nike, just do it. That's a real short tagline. They're known for being, athletic, versatile. So that's what you kind of want to drill it down to, that 1 or 2 words of your brand and your tagline. Caroline, in my introduction, she used enthusiasm and passion. And those are 2 things I work really hard on. I know a lot of people think, oh, being enthusiastic is easy, you just got to have high energy. No, you can have a high energy and be really on edge all the time. You aren't necessarily enthusiastic. So it's really making sure that I am living to those and I'm doing the things that portray those things. So passionate and enthusiasm are 2 of my big ones. And I love helping people. Like, I am here to help you be successful. That's a strong tagline for me. So that brand sheet, your value propositions, all those things funnel down into this lovely value statement. This value statement is, again, what helps guide me. It is It is trickled in throughout my LinkedIn. I don't have it just as is like this because it's a little too short for LinkedIn, but I do use the keywords to highlight throughout my LinkedIn bio. On my resume, when I change jobs, I use this as my summary, or some people use the objective section. I use this as like, this is me in a nutshell. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm passionate for helping. I do business storytelling. I'm adaptable. I create, implement, lead, and develop. Those are big things for me. And that's what I want to make sure that whoever is going to work with me knows that they're going to get this. So let's talk about living your brand and leadership, and a little bit more about implementing leadership identity. So have you guys done an exercise on different leadership styles? I can't remember if that's part of y'all's introductory program. No? Okay. So there's a couple of different resource websites, but most of them list these. Sometimes they use different words, but these are all the different type of leadership styles. There are pros and cons to every single one of them. I want you to kind of look at this for a second and really think about, what leadership style are you currently working under? What leadership style have you not liked before? And these keywords underneath them just are a quick synopsis. So for example, bureaucratic, there are rules, there's plenty of stability. The pro is their stability. It's a systematic approach to leadership. They remain consistent through changes and other shifts. The cons is they tempt to fall into, we've always done it that way. So that's kind of the pros and cons of a bureaucratic leadership style. I work in a very democratic leadership style. My company structure is very flat, and they continue to flatten it out. We make decisions in a very democratic way. But my immediate supervisor is very laissez-faire. He's hands-off. It's, you've got this, you're gonna let me know if you need help. There are pros and cons to that. If you're not used to working with a laissez-faire leader, you can feel disconnected. You can feel that you don't have a good direction, disorganized. I'm okay with it. It works well. I gravitate towards leaders that have that type of style because I work better under that style. So it's really kind of looking at these, and when I include the slides, I'm gonna have a page of like all the pros and cons and definitions of each and one of these. So it gives you a really clear picture of these. But you need to consider what it is that you want your leadership style to be. And when you're doing that, you have to take your company, your team, and yourself into consideration, because your leadership style needs to fit within your company. If your company is a laissez-faire type company and you are a bureaucratic type leader, that's not going to mesh well. You have to take those into consideration. You have to take yourself to be true to yourself. Make sure you're following a style that complements your strengths, and then one that your team or your colleagues are going to respond well to. Now, to say this is not, you do not have one leadership style. You can have multiple different leadership styles. I'm a laissez-faire leader about 70% of the time. I'm an energetic leader 20% of the time, and I'm autocratic 10% of the time. If I'm coming in and there's a decision that needs to be made, I don't take a vote. I'm like, nope, we're doing this, we're going this way, moving on. So some people work well with that, but that's why my laissez-faire and autocratic complement each other, because I'm giving everybody the chance to do things their way. And if it comes down to a decision and nobody can make a decision, I will come in, I will make a decision, and we will move on. And so it actually works really well. So these are how my leadership styles work together and complement one another. One of the things that people don't talk enough about is how your leadership style impacts people that aren't directly reporting to you. I work with a lot of different people, and most of them don't report up to me. So I have to lead groups that I have no official authority over, and your leadership style can make that easier or harder. So when you're talking to those people and what resonates with them, your leadership style gives you the ability to make things happen without having authority. So now we're going to talk about virtual presence. Before I move on to virtual presence, are there any questions, comments going through how to identify your brand, identifying your leadership style, marrying the two? 3, 2, 1, moving on. So your virtual presence is a way for you to reflect this image, this brand. As we all know, COVID changed how we interact with each other, and our virtual presence became the only presence we had. So people who weren't well established or didn't have that well defined really struggled in the COVID virtual environment because they didn't have it. Those that did really succeeded and were able to maintain connections and make new connections because of this. I'm really grateful that people had that experience because it emphasized how important the virtual presence is. A lot of my coworkers, especially AEC industry, a lot of the engineers and the older engineers discounted virtual presence until COVID. And that really highlighted we have to have both. You have to be in person and you have to be virtual, and they both have to mean the same thing. They both have to marry up, and you have to make sure that you're being consistent in person and virtually. Because have any of you ever met somebody that you like connected with or really liked virtually, or watched a presentation or podcast, and then you met them in person and you're like, ugh, they're not as great as I thought they were? I have. I've met people like that. I've also met people that I were exactly the same person virtually as they were in person, and all it did was make me a bigger fan of them and make me want to connect with them even more. So that is really something to consider when you're developing this virtual presence. It's easy to kind of be somebody else or be a super extra version of yourself. You just have to make sure you scale it appropriately so that when people do meet you in person, you're not creating that false identity. What I suggest you doing with your virtual presence starting now is you clean up your connections and add new ones. I go through my LinkedIn connections regularly. If I look through them and I can't remember where we met, or why we're connected, I unconnect with you. Why do I do this? Because your news feed in your LinkedIn is where you're getting all your information from. And if you're putting things out that I'm not going to gain value from, then I will unconnect with certain people. You don't want to unconnect, obviously, with everybody. You want to maintain connections with certain people, but there are people when I was younger that I connected with that I'm like, I don't know why I ever connected with these people. So kind of clean up your connections and add new ones. Add people that you look up to, people that are putting out that content that's really going to help you grow professionally, that's going to impact how you do business or what is going on in your industry. My LinkedIn is my news feed. It's where I get the latest and greatest news information. And it's how I share the latest and greatest new information so people can come to me and know that I'm going to help them out. Because I want to be that. That's what I want to be to other people. I want people to come to me for information. I want them to ask me, do you know anything about this? Because then I can either funnel it to my own company, or I can help out a counter company and help them out with new contacts. Consistent profiles. That's the second bullet. Your consistent profile is, again, if you're going to use your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter for professional development purposes, use your same photo on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. Same image. You have to, it just makes it easier for people to find you. If you want to be that real big thought leader, that's what you need to do, is you have to be consistent among all the profiles. If you want to have a personal separation between professional, like I do, I have different profile photos. My Facebook is a little bit more personal / professional. Instagram, super personal. LinkedIn is all professional. So there's a difference between the profiles, but that's by design. So kind of consider how that impact is. Go beyond the likes. When you're doing LinkedIn or any other, don't just like things. People notice likes, but they don't really care. Like, it doesn't say anything. You're not connecting with people by just liking their stuff. You have to start a conversation in the comments. Not everybody's going to respond to you, and that's okay, but it actually generates, you never know what kind of connection you're going to generate, and you never know what thought leadership opportunities you're going to gain by using the comment section. This is a great way to stand out and to differentiate yourself, much like we were talking about earlier about differentiating yourself between your company. If you are out there putting out questions and starting conversations, then that separates you out from your company. And again, thought leader opportunities. You can post blogs, you can post articles. Don't just post things without putting some kind of thought to it. That is really important. Don't share your competitors' stuff. That's like, just kind of take in mind that when people see these things, they're going to see what you're doing. But if you're going to be really focused on being that thought leader on a particular subject, you have to start posting original content, and you have to start sharing new content with your own commentary. Don't just share stuff to share stuff. So let's continue on with the virtual assessment. Everybody checks out everybody online. There is nobody that's not Googling somebody or LinkedIn somebody before they even have the interaction. I mean, how many of you have Googled or LinkedIn somebody before you even met them? I would imagine most of us would raise our hands. So you want to make sure that you actually go through and you look yourself up. So the best way to do this, the ultimate best way to do this actually, is if you go to a Wi-Fi that you've never been to before and you do an incognito search. You can do incognito at your home. There's still going to be little ties, cookies that still get through the incognito mode, but the best way to do it is incognito mode and a new Wi-Fi area. And the reason why I say that is because you want to get anything that's uninfluenced by your own activities. So you can go Control-Shift-N on Google. I think Edge has, I forget, but you right click up there and it also gives you a shortcut as well. And then you're going to type in your name. If I can spell my name right. T-L-Y. I can't spell my own name. Why is this important? You want to get an idea of what people are seeing, that first 7-second impression that you have no influence over other than what you put on the internet. You have no control over what I'm going to interpret other than what you actually put out there. So by posting on LinkedIn regularly, by creating new content, by speaking, by doing blogs for your company, you are going to strengthen your online presence. You'll see here that I have the same photo across. I use the same photo for speaking engagements. I have it for my company profile. I have it on my LinkedIn. So that creates that consistency. I get the question a lot of, if there is something on here that I don't like, what do I do? You can't get stuff removed. It's the internet. It's not going away. What you can do is you can drown it out. Again, speaking opportunities, post it on LinkedIn, ask other people to post it on LinkedIn. I'm sorry you're hearing banging. They're like painting my house right now. So a lot of background noise. If you hear it, I apologize. But you're going to drown it out by putting other information. You want to make some information more public, like your Facebook. You'll have to make that determination if you're going to do that or not. But you have to start putting out more content in order for you to flush that stuff out. Now, nobody really goes past the 3rd page. I would argue that nobody goes past the 1st page. So if it's on the 2nd or 3rd page, it's a little bit of a less concern. But if you have something up here that is an association with you, that's not you, even if it's somebody else, you have to figure out how to differentiate yourself from that. One of my colleagues, his name is associated with somebody that has a criminal past. So we intentionally use his middle initial on everything. First name, middle initial, last name differentiates him completely on the LinkedIn search. So it's just really, or on the Google search. So just make sure that you're looking at those different ways to set yourself apart if people are using this to find you or to connect with you. I probably spent way too much time on that. So another tool that can help you as you're doing your personal brand worksheet is this Standout assessment, and it's by Marcus Buckingham. Marcus Buckingham worked for Myers-Briggs for a long time. He helped with the profiling and developing some of the quizzes and tests that companies use today, and he really emphasizes your strengths and not your weaknesses. This is one of my favorite assessments, and this is free. You just have to sign up, and it will highlight what your strengths are. And the reason why, again, I like it is because I don't like focusing on my weaknesses. I have weaknesses. I'm not going to be able to change them, and I don't want to waste my energy on strengthening my weaknesses when I have strengths that can compensate for those weaknesses. So that is my approach, and that's why I really like his assessment, is because it lets me know how to utilize my strengths to overcome those weaknesses. This is also a fun assessment to give colleagues, and if you have younger professionals working for you, to better understand them and understand the way you can utilize them better within a team. This is a really great assessment to kind of give within your organization as well, to develop those strong communications and those strong working teams. Okay, we talked about getting your LinkedIn presence, getting a stronger presence, but how do you kind of start doing that? So again, I said engage by commenting. You'll see that here. Documenting ideas. I have a Word doc or a Google doc where I put in ideas. I'll be walking down. I'll be like, oh, that would be a nice, interesting article. I should maybe write something about that someday, or I should research this and then share that information. So I have a Google Doc document for ideas that I send for other people. I write a lot of content. I ghostwrite a lot for some of my peers as well. So it helps them be more thought leaders. So I use this document to capture a lot of different thoughts and ideas. You really want to create posts that drive the conversation, like I was saying earlier, that you want to look for providing insight, providing education, or providing personal stories and experiences. These are the three most popular, most engaged with type posts that you can do. Nobody ever gets engagement with vanilla posts. It has to border on controversy or conversation generating type posts. If you say, hey, this seems like a really great program, and then nothing else, like that's not going to generate conversation. If you say, this is a great program, however, I would have included blah, 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 people are going to say, interesting you say that because I disagree, I would do this or I would do that. One of my most engaged posts was, I'm Native American, and bringing cultural awareness is really important to me when I'm talking about, when I'm talking to people in general. I have a lot of people that message me and ask me questions. It is one of the things I want people to think about when they think about Victoria Meckley. They think about Native American cultural. And I posted something about the Kansas City Chiefs, and using that and why I would advocate for a name change, of changing the Kansas City Chiefs to something else. And it generated the most conversations I have ever had virtually, and they were all professional, they were all respectful, and every single person I spoke with, even the ones that disagreed with me, thanked me for the conversation afterwards. And I made a lot of local connections that I would not have gathered otherwise. People that I'm not even connected with messaged me and were talking to me about this topic. So you never know what you're going to generate. With that in mind, though, LinkedIn is a professional platform, and you need to be very aware of your company policies, because they may or may not be in favor of you posting some personal thoughts on a controversial topic. So just keep that in mind. It is a way to separate yourself away from your company, but it is also a risk somewhat to take. So just be really mindful of what topics you choose. I know a lot of people are talking about are leaders born or made? There's a lot of, I've seen some recent controversial posts or just really strong thought, leading, provoking posts about the difference between a made leader and a born leader. So those are kind of safer topics. Kind of think about it in that way when you're starting to develop content. Again, on LinkedIn, when you're going to be that thought leader, you want to make sure you post it when it's going to get seen. Saturdays and Sundays, worst days. Obviously, LinkedIn is a work type platform. Don't post on those days. This is the latest and greatest from Sprout Social. Wednesday from 10 to noon used to be like the time, and now it's Tuesday, which is interesting because, anyways, I don't know why it changed from Wednesday to Tuesday, but apparently it did. This is for all, this is for Central Standard Time, by the way, the time zone Central Standard, and this is for all businesses. This is just LinkedIn in general. For our industry, I do find that Wednesdays and Thursdays tend to be a lot more active on LinkedIn than actually on Tuesday. So just kind of keep an eye on when you post things and the activity that is engaging them, and when people are liking it, sharing it, commenting, that'll kind of give you an idea about your specific industry and what is most popular on there. Again, this is really important if that's what you want to be, that thought leader, that expert in some way, or if you're helping a partner or a colleague be a thought leader or expert, then you definitely want to focus on helping them post during specific times and days. So I know I covered over a lot of information. I think we have about 10 minutes left. I can stay a little bit later too. But what questions, comments do you guys have for me on all the information I just threw your way? I guess the question is, Caroline, did I answer your question on changing over time and redirecting?
Yeah, you did. I appreciate your thoughts on that. I think it's something that all of us are going to struggle with, over time as we evolve in our careers. But, especially for those who are making an abrupt change, it can hit you over the head like a hammer, right? Like you thought you were one thing, and that's how you were planning, and then all of a sudden you have to pivot. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Does anybody else have another question they want to ask right now?
I have a quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
I haven't dug into LinkedIn like that much, but I know they have like this premium tool. So I was curious if that was something that you thought was beneficial, or if it's worth the money.
I have premium. I find it beneficial mostly because of the job I'm in. I do business development, marketing, sales. It gives me a chance to message people that I'm not connected with. So that is really helpful. You can see Brandy's post here that she posted.
I was gonna say, yeah, I love that.
Before or right around this session.
Provoking, not thought provoking, just a simple. But we've had a lot go on recently with the company, so we're being very, non-engaging right now.
But this is okay because it tells people that you were there. It lets them know that, oh, if I didn't tag up with you, I should have tagged up with you, or I saw you and I didn't get to tag up with you. So it is helpful. So the premium, I'm trying to think of the best way to show what premium comes with. So the best thing about premium, when you are trying to be a thought leader, premium is worth it because it will give you the insight on your posts that you wouldn't get otherwise. It also tells you like who's looking at your profile, because if you don't, like I can view somebody privately, and still not lose who's all been looking at my profile. So that's helpful for me, because sometimes when somebody views my profile, like Chance, so this is actually, they're working on developing a spaceport. So I'm like, oh, you checked out my profile. Hey, it was great. You know, you checked out my profile. Was there any questions that you had, anything you wanted to learn more about? So that's really how I use the LinkedIn. It also tells me like when the heaviest traffic is, interesting views, location, where were all these people that were checking me out, what industry were they in. It really just depends on your goals. And if you want to have a one-on-one conversation about what your goals are and whether LinkedIn Premium is worth it, I am happy to have that one-on-one conversation with you. Because I don't want a blanket statement and say, yes, all of you should pay money to do this. Like, it really just depends on what your personal goals are.
Okay, thanks.
So Victoria, Roland popped a comment in the chat too that the premium is free for transitioning service members for 1 year. So if you're transitioning and want to check it out, it is free for a year.
That's super cool. I learned something new today.
They gave me a second free year.
Even better. Okay.
Even better. And
I've also found that there's different levels of premium.
Yes, there are. I do just the general. I'm not doing anything too crazy on premium, but it's useful for me because of my job. Someone earlier asked the question. I'm sorry, I didn't get who asked it. The differentiating yourself from the company. Who asked that question?
I think it was Catherine.
That was me, Catherine Niles.
Awesome. Did I answer your question?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions, comments?
Hey, Victoria. It's
Hey.
Brandy. Good to talk to you again. I just had a real quick one. You know, there's been some change in thought on your tagline on LinkedIn. You know, it was typically always best industry practices to list your company name in your title, just so that you could very quickly, you know, be found and people understood. There's been a change or a development over the last couple of years where it's, you know, we've got these innovative taglines, more of who you are, your value statement. We're seeing more and more of that. What are your thoughts on that, and just kind of where you see that trend going? And I'm going to mute.
Yeah, you're good. Great question. And I tend to go more towards, why should somebody want to talk to me? They're not going to reach out to me because of my company. If they reach out to me, they likely would have already found me because of my company through a search. I prefer things that I want people to know about me to connect with me on. So aerospace infrastructure, that's a big one. I'm a connector. So if somebody's like, oh, you know, such and such, would you be willing to connect me? That tells them right away that I would be willing to connect them. Storyteller, lifelong learner. Those are just part of my values. That's part of who I am. That's really important to me. So I tend to not do the company thing, because as soon as they go to your profile, they can see what company you work for. And when you're searching for somebody, you're searching for multiple reasons, but they would have already likely met you before they connect with, you know what I mean? Like, they would have already known what company you work for. Very rarely do I look for somebody that I'm like, oh, I don't know what company they work for. Like, I already know what company they work for.
Sure. So how do you, then what are your thoughts on diverging from the standard of what your firm does to individualize yourself? Do you feel like that's acceptable, you know, kind of to deviate from that standard?
I do, because companies are more successful when their people are more accessible. And when companies say everybody has to have the same tagline, you have to have your role and then the company name, that doesn't exactly lend you to being more approachable for recruit. Like, recruiting is huge right now. We are all scrounging for people. Are any of you looking for a job? Because if you are, let me know. Like, that's how bad we have gotten right now. So anything you can do to make yourself more personable, relatable for recruiting purposes is never a fail and never a bad thing. And if a company doesn't see that value, I would challenge them to a marketing duel, because I strongly believe in this is you, and you are a brand advocate for your company. Sure. This is not your company's LinkedIn. This is your LinkedIn.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. James, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks for going through all this, but I was also curious. You had mentioned a career counselor and coach. Is that something that's, I never really heard about that much, but is that something you would suggest to people? Or?
So the reason why I would suggest it, if you are in a stage where you're kind of like, ooh, what's next? So I am in business development and marketing, and I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I don't know what I want to do. I want to get a construction management degree. I want to get a planner degree. I want to get a coaching degree. I want to get my master's in business. Those are all very different things. So I needed somebody that was going to help me kind of take my skills and everything that I've done, like my branding wise, and really go that deeper level, and then help me look at my industry as a whole and where the industry is going, and guide me so that I can make that decision on, well, what is my next move after 5 years? Because I know what I don't want to do, but it's what are the degrees I need to get to be successful within my industry? What are the skills I need to start focusing on and developing, because I don't know what I don't know. So that's kind of why I signed up for my coach. And she's also just really great to bounce things off of and say, hey, I'm really struggling on developing my communication skills with somebody who's really passive aggressive. And she coaches me through that. She coaches me through the skills I need to develop to deal with that, and suggest books or suggest any other things on how to manage that.
Awesome. Thanks. That sounds good.
It just really depends on where you are in your life and what your goals are. Some people are all for it, other people aren't, and it seemed like the right thing for me to do, and I love it. I meet with her once a month, and it's been a really big help for me professionally on what am I doing next, and feeling comfortable about the small things I'm doing to develop my skills to get to where I want to go next.
Yeah, that sounds really helpful. Awesome. Thanks.
So James and others, just to follow up on that a little bit, Jen Campbell, who did your self-assessments, she also does some of that. So coaching and professional and personal, and some mastermind classes. She does individual and small groups. So if it's something that you're thinking about, not that you necessarily have to use her, but I know she would be very open to whatever your questions are, helping you find the right person, or if you wanted an in-person coach, helping you maybe identify that resource through her connections.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted one that was in person, so I found somebody here locally to Kansas City. Like, that was really important for me to have that face-to-face connection. Any other questions?
Our keynote speaker yesterday here at the Industry Days in Omaha was Josh Frank from RSM Federal. I mean, and he beat the drum pretty hard on value statements as well. So I mean, there's a lot of assets out here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll say one thing I've had my coworkers go through this personal branding sheet as well. And when they send it to me, because I help work on proposals, and oddly enough, there are certain clients that really want to see that more personal aspect of a human being, and not so much like, you have 20 years of experience and you have done this and done that. So I have taken these and I have used it to craft a more personable bio for proposals. In particular, in Denver, our transportation group, Denver is really like, they really want to know you as a person. And so it's really kind of helped that development of that material as well, to make it, again, humans, like we are humans that are wanting to work with you, and how do we bring that human element out? And the best way is like, well, tell me about who you are as a person, tell me what makes you unique and special, and let's figure out how we can provide that in an interesting way to help the business. Any other questions? All right. Well, I will leave with this final thought. I am here. I'm happy to help any way I can. This information will be sent out to you guys via email or your Dropbox in some way. So, but in the meantime, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I am so happy to help. You guys are doing some fun stuff. I know LDP can be, your agenda is jam-packed, so you guys got a lot going on, but I hope you're able to utilize some of the information I gave you today to carve your path forward as a leader.
Thank you, Victoria. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to spend some time with us and educate and teach us. So thank you.